Let me again welcome everyone today and say that I'm pleased to comply with a request both in writing and verbally that I had from Mr. Rahal, from Ms. Brown, to convene a legislative hearing on the committee print of the proposal by myself, Mr. Schuster, which is entitled Competition for Intercity Passenger Rail in America. We are very pleased to move forward and try to improve passenger rail service, not only in the Northeast Corridor, not only for high-speed rail, but also for passenger rail for America. As a very strong advocate of passenger rail, I believe it can not only benefit us as far as energy, as far as improvement in the environment, but in many ways, I think it's a segment of the economy that's been stuck in neutral, sort of stuck in stupid, as some people would say, for many years. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of Amtrak, which has a history of a Soviet-style train operation, while train operations and systems around the world have moved into the 21st and sometimes the 22nd century, achieving speeds of 150 miles an hour on average, which is not uncommon in Europe and Asia. Systems around the world, some of them going much faster than that on average. While we have our snail speed trains that Amtrak promotes at great expense, underwriting every ticket last year, $50 and approximately 80 cents, some of the routes in the hundreds of dollars, and I have no problem with subsidization of any forms of transportation so long as they are reasonable and accomplish what we set out to do, and that's moving people efficiently, economically, by the best possible infrastructure that we can work together to provide. Let me say that we have two reasons for this legislation that Mr. Schuster and I have introduced. As I continue with my opening statement as we get settled here and get everyone a chance to gather. First reason, of course, is my great disappointment in high-speed rail, the failure. I was excited when President Obama, even President-elect Obama, had stated one of his goals was to create high-speed rail systems like we have in Europe and Asia. Came to the floor of the House of Representatives as State of the Union and said that that was his goal and repeated it. And then we had, of course, the money which was thrown at projects. And to go back for just a second, Mr. Schuster and I worked aggressively during the Bush administration, and prior to that, I worked back as far as with Susan Molinari, previous chairs of this committee, to try to bring good reforms and improve passenger rail service across the United States, including the PREA Act, which we worked in a bipartisan manner with Mr. Oberstar. I helped author and promote the high-speed rail provisions, worked House, Senate, Republicans and Democrats, and we actually got the President of the United States, Mr. Bush, to sign that law that, again, set out a blueprint for creating high-speed rail for involvement of states and localities and others in the process, setting up, again, a participatory outline and framework. All that was sort of blown apart when some of the grants were announced. We threw $8 billion in stimulus money, another $2.5 through regular appropriations at high-speed rail. And when those decisions were made behind closed doors without proper consultation of members of Congress and others, you see exactly what you got. People rejected snail-speed trains. They rejected 39-mile-an-hour systems that would be slightly improved, and still you could ride a bus and get there faster than you could by Amtrak proposed service. So money came back from Ohio. The 70, 80-mile-an-hour snail-speed proposals for Wisconsin and Florida that were sold as high-speed were also rightfully rejected. And I'm not very pleased with the inglorious start that we have had in throwing money at projects that had no possibility of succeeding either in providing high-speed service or in moving this country into the 21st century of high-speed rail. Even by federal definition that we put in the law, high speed is 110 miles an hour, which is watered down by Amtrak in those negotiations. And in fact, you'll find around the world the standard is 120 miles per hour. So what we've ended up with is a horrible start. I couldn't think of a worse launch of high-speed rail in the United States, undermining the efforts that we worked so hard for to launch true high-speed service around the nation. I'm not even happy with the one project that remains that has the possibility of high-speed rail, and that's California. Went out to Fresno, and we actually did a hearing out there. And that section that's been chosen between Fresno and Bakersfield has neither the population or the inner city connections to make that a success, and yet we're throwing billions of dollars at that marginal project as far as a successful project. So what we've tried to do is turn our focus to the Northeast Corridor. And people, any of the people who say that we're not going to succeed, I can tell you right now, Mr. Boardman, Representatives Labor and others, that we are succeeding. Because the first thing we got done was the recognition by this administration and others to designate the Northeast Corridor after some time waiting as a high-speed rail corridor. And we do have some recognition by Amtrak, who's now considering, and we'll hear the plans from Mr. Boardman, of bringing the private sector in, because he knows as well as I know and every member knows that you'll be turning blue before the Congress ever gives $117 billion or waits 30 years for high-speed rail in this nation. So yes, we'll have a full hearing on this, and we rolled this out. We tried to do it in a bipartisan manner, bringing in people from around the United States, not just the big shots in Washington last week. We connected people, hundreds of people from around the country who had an opportunity to participate, both by teleconference and by webcasting this. And we offered later, and everyone saw it when I saw it, a committee print, which you see before you today. And yes, we will have a hearing. We'll have a hearing every week if we have to until we get this done, or we get high-speed rail moving in inner-city passenger service that is adequate world standard. And all along the way, Mr. Schuster and I have guaranteed, promised, committed to preserving labor's benefits, wages, and whatever else they have existing. And I don't want that to be an issue. And anybody who thinks that the glorious future for Amtrak is to continue with the status quo, as some have said we should do, are sleeping at the switch as far as labor is concerned. Labor, look at the future that labor has had with Amtrak and with what's going on. We've gone from 29,000 Amtrak employees when I came to Congress to 19,000. So you want to continue to lose jobs in an industry where other parts of the world are actually gaining and we're moving people? Is that the history you want? Do you remember in 2007, and I made part of the record today, the outline of what Amtrak did to labor, and they argued for years over wages and salaries, minor benefits for their employees. I went to those meetings with Mr. Oberstar and tried to get off dead center so that labor could, that's in Amtrak and the great people who work in that could get the benefits and some of the other terms of employment that they have in the private sector that they got from privatization of our freight rail, which we did years ago, and we've left Amtrak left in neutral. So no one's trying to harm labor in any way, and I will go out to the unions if I have to go from shop to shop and explain it to them and get on train to train and let them know that they will be protected by whatever we do here. Now, in an unprecedented fashion, too, we rolled out that measure last week, the committee print, and I saw it in the afternoon when everyone else did. We discussed the general outline of what Mr. Schuster and I proposed, both for high-speed rail in the Northeast Corridor and other corridors, and then long-distance and inner-city passenger service. And his intent is also a follow-up of what we put in PREA. He asked for just a couple of lines that are money losers to be put up for bid to allow the private sector. And I ask you, why can't we ask the private sector to bid on some of these routes if we're guaranteeing, again, labor, all of their opportunities, their wages? Why can't we do that? Why are we so closed-minded that people can't consider an offer that may be better? And we did protect Amtrak in the case, again, that services be continued to be provided. And no one said that we want to dismantle Amtrak. In fact, if there wasn't an Amtrak, I said you would create an Amtrak that would be the franchisee and oversee some of the passenger service. So we put provisions into PREA, both for high-speed rail, for intercity passenger service, that we think we can build upon, and that we think that we can have an opportunity to provide more service, more employment, and true high-speed rail, again, opening the door to competition and leaving Amtrak intact. But what we get, in fact, is just negative comments, and we will move this forward one way or the other. We'll move it forward in this Congress or in future Congresses. And I guarantee that Amtrak will tell us today and in the future that they have to move in that direction, because they're not going to find $117 billion that Congress will give them. And we aren't going to wait 30 years to have that service in the Northeast Corridor or any place else in the United States. So I think that gave everyone an opportunity to get settled. Ms. Brown, you think that everyone got an opportunity to be settled?
We appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. And I want to make certain that everyone understand with clarity my position. If there's anything I didn't amplify on, I'll be glad to do it as we proceed. So with those brief opening comments, I'm pleased to yield to Mr. Rahal.